everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, February 11th of 2024. Now today is an interesting day for me because today is the 10-year anniversary of the passing of my amazing mother. My dad's been gone a long time, 26 years, and my mom, it's been 10 years today. And it's a beautiful day of just reflection and gratitude and a reminder of how short this earthly existence really is. And sometimes when I reflect back on how long it's been, it seems not so long that my mom passed, and then of course with my dad too. So today is a day of thoughtfulness and gratitude for the beautiful woman that was my mom. Now this week I spent a good chunk of time rereading the book Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. Now this is something that I've read probably 4 or 5 times. It's always jaw-dropping every time I read it. Now Dr. David Hawkins is the one I've been talking about in the last few videos. He developed a scale of consciousness, and I've been kind of talking about that. He also wrote a book besides he wrote the book Letting Go. He wrote a really powerful book that I've also read several times called Power versus Force. And this really talks about the difference between using your power versus forcing something to happen. Both of these books, I would highly recommend that you put this into your rotation or put it even at the top of your list. These are game changer books, and the work of this amazing human who's not physically here on this planet anymore. Talk about a dent in the universe that he left. His work always comforts me. So what I did is I went back this week, and I love listening to things on Audible. I listen at 1.5 speed. My brain just works good that way. And I'm able to get through content and make notes while I listen. And I got from the start to the finish of this beautiful book. So what I did is I wrote down, as I was listening, a list of the things that are key components of letting go. And it's called Letting Go, the Pathway to Surrender. And this is so relevant to the times that we're living in. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, and then what I actually did too is after I went through these, then I looked all these things up on where they resonate on the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So the first thing is to practice awareness. And then I wrote, it's important to develop mindfulness by paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and your reactions without judgment. So you're just basically being aware. You're practicing awareness. And then simply observe them as they arrive. So these thoughts and feelings, emotions, reactions, the way that you would automatically react to something. Man, I am so guilty of this. And I'm sure many of you can relate that we have these automatic responses. We have the automatic emotions and feelings about things. And it's amazing to simply recognize and be aware of them without judgment. Now the second thing that I wrote here was to identify your attachments. So reflect on the areas in your life where you feel stuck or emotionally charged. One of my sisters sent me a quote this week that was really relevant to where she was in her life, and it actually fits where I am in my life too. And I don't have the exact quote, but it was something like, the person that you are as you walk through something really, really, really hard, that you kind of had to suit up with armor, you had to really, the person that you are through the war, that's a metaphorical war, is not the same. Like say you're climbing a mountain and it's a emotional, spiritual war to get to the top of the mountain. And this could be anything. This could be someone that's going through an abusive relationship and you're getting out of it, and maybe it accumulates in a separation, then a divorce. This is just a pure example. What basically the person that you had to become for your relationship, your marriage, to get to the point where there needed to be a separation and a breakup of this marriage. This could even be a job. This could relate to anything, but the person that you became while you were fighting this battle, once you're at the other end of the battle, you need to release that person. You need to become a new person. So this is to me identifying attachments, because we might be attached to a certain reaction. So reflect on the areas in your life where you feel stuck or emotionally charged. These are often signs of an attachment. Identify what you're clinging to, whether it's a person, a belief, or an outcome. We cling to these outcomes, and then sometimes what happens is when maybe we get the outcome, but we're so addicted to the emotions and the feelings at that point that we don't know how to quite break out of that. It's really an interesting thing. Now, the third thing I wrote here, as I was writing this list and listening to this book, was to embrace acceptance. Okay, we need to acknowledge that clinging to attachments creates suffering. When we cling to an attachment, we're just creating our own suffering. Most of the time, we replay situations and scenarios and some little thing that happened, someone did us a little adjustment, whatever. I am so guilty of this, but replaying over and over and over. And this is where you get to become situationally aware in your own life and the things that you respond to, right? So we need to practice accepting reality as it is. And we get to create reality. I think that there are hard facts of things that are happening, but then we get to create a response to it, which creates our own reality. And it's not about living in la la land at all. It's about really practicing accepting reality as it is, without resistance or denial. Okay? Embracing acceptance allows you to let go of the need for things to be different. Things are as they are. I get to choose whether I'm a victim or a creator. I get to choose how I respond in every single situation. Then the fourth thing I wrote here was to release resistance. Recognize and release resistance to uncomfortable emotions or situations. This is such a beautiful theme that's woven all the way through this book of letting go, is that we get to look at these emotions and situations and all the things that we're expecting, and we get to really release the resistance to uncomfortable emotions and situations. Resistance amplifies our suffering. Resistance amplifies how much pain we're in, emotional pain, sometimes physical pain. My dear friend Stephen Ozonich wrote a beautiful book called The Great Pain Deception. I've got 6 interviews with him on this channel, the YouTube channel. And I'm telling you, these are powerful interviews because many times we have emotional trauma and it causes us physical pain. And this is a whole piece of releasing resistance. Resistance amplifies suffering, while acceptance and surrender lead to peace. When we accept and we surrender, this has been a really beautiful week for me because I have had a huge shift in my surrender of a situation that I know is going to have a beautiful resolution. I know that everything is going to come. It's going to come to the end that it needs to come to, and it's going to be very good for everyone. I know this already, and it's interesting when you know something, when you work toward really becoming the person that you want to be, and personal development, personal growth, and all of this, and you have this knowing, but you still give yourself angst, and you still give yourself you second guess. And I think it's because we get addicted to these emotions of suffering, and that might sound weird, but I think it's so true. And I think maybe we think if we suffer, we can make it clear up quicker. Maybe that's a part of it. Okay, the next thing is he talked about this in the book, is to use what's called the Sedona method. Okay, there's techniques that are outlined in the book, and I'm going to go over this because I actually looked it up on another search. But basically, what it does is it helps you release emotions and attachments. And this method involves asking yourself simple questions like, could I let this feeling go? And would I let it go? Now, the Sedona method, this is actually really cool because this was actually developed by a man named Lester Levinson in the 1950s. And he had apparently a very serious health journey. And on his healing journey, he developed this method. And basically it's this: identifying feelings, releasing attachments, acceptance and surrender, releasing goals and desires. That one is huge. And then practicing detachment. Okay, so here's what I wrote to this, because this one to me is one of the major themes where we practice being detached from things that there's so many things that we can detach from and be non-emotional in the negative way, right? Detachment is a key theme in the Sedona method, as it encourages individuals to let go of identification with their thoughts and emotions. So in this method, you're encouraged to let go of identifying yourself with your thoughts or your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You are this incredible light being of love and consciousness and pure God. Like this is who we are. So it really encourages you to practice detachment from these things. And then this is the final piece I'll share with the Sedona method. By observing our thoughts and feelings without attachment, we can experience greater freedom and inner peace. You know, that's something I'll see if there's a book on that, because that sounds like something that would be really wonderful to actually read about the Sedona method. So basically this man, Lester Levinson, developed the technique, and over the decades since then, it's been honed and it's been, polished up, and it's, there are people who self-practice this method, and there are actually facilitators who, if you really looked it up and you really wanted someone to help you facilitate these things, there are people that that are probably trained in this method, which I think is wonderful. So the next one is to practice forgiveness. Forgive yourself and others for past hurts and grievances. Holding on to resentment only perpetuates suffering. Forgiveness liberates you from the burden of the past. Forgiveness is always more beneficial to the person who needs to forgive than the person who needs forgiveness. And someone might not forgive you, but it's you forgiving yourself for whatever, or simply forgiving someone even if they are still holding a grudge or they did something that they're not sorry for. That honestly doesn't matter. Forgiveness is such a beautiful, beautiful way of letting go, because I know many people who can create disease and sickness and even cancers from that horrible feeling of being able to not forgive somebody, holding a grudge, the resentment, the unforgiveness. This is something that's really important to talk about on a regular basis, just like gratitude. These things are important components of living an untethered life. Now, there's a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, which I've also read. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video very soon. That's one of my favorite books. And then the next one is to cultivate gratitude. The next one is to connect with your higher self. When we connect with our inner wisdom or higher self through practices like meditation, prayer, or introspection, this connection provides guidance and clarity on what is truly important and helps you detach from ego-driven desires, right? I think that's really, that one is like all of these seem like completely like mind-blowing to me. Even though I've revisited things like forgiveness and gratitude, they never ever get old. Connecting with our higher self is like connecting with God. And sometimes we just need to get quiet and reflect and ask, right? I have a little bit of tickle. I don't want to cough all over this. Okay, so then here's a really cool one. And this is right in the book, letting go in relationships. This one is big, especially as a person who is in a long marriage. We've been married 25 years this coming spring, and I had a 16-year marriage prior to that. And, I believe in working on relationships and doing everything you can to make your relationship strong, but sometimes you need to let go in relationships where you want to try to change the other person. And there might be things that are impossible to work through. And that's okay too. You can leave a relationship, whether it's a friendship, it doesn't have to be a marriage. It could be a friendship. It could be maybe someone in your family that is not a healthy relationship. And I'm not talking about, trying to make things work or holding grudges yourself at some, practice all these things. And if you need to let go of a relationship, that's important. So here's what I wrote after I listened to that chapter. Practice letting go of expectations and attachments in your relationships. Allow others to be who they are without trying to change or control them. I don't really need to say much more on that one, do I? That one is powerful. Surrender control. This is why I listened to this book this week, because these all just kind of hammered home for me. And I'm so grateful that I have not only read this book before, but that I really sat and reflected on all of these things that I've heard many times because I have read this book. But every single time I pick it up, I get always new downloads, new information. And because there's things that are relevant when I read it for the first time, and there's things now that are relevant now, right? So surrender the illusion of control over external circumstances. We all have this illusion that we can control things. You know, that goes so along with what's happening in the world today. You know, we have these illusions we can control things. Can we make a difference? Yeah, we can make a difference. We can make a difference in ourselves, our families, our communities. We can make a total difference in the way we respond. You know, there's things that we really cannot control, and we need to surrender. Surrender control. Trust in the natural flow of life and allow things to unfold as they will. Oh, that seems so powerful. Knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Trust in the natural flow of life and allow things to unfold as they will, knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. You can handle whatever comes your way, whatever comes. You know, this to me kind of bonked me over the head when I was reading that, listening to that chapter. I was just like, I need to let things unfold in the natural flow of life, and not be so wrapped up in something that I think I can control because I'm thinking about it so much. So then the next one is focus on the present moment. This one is always important. Stay grounded in the present moment rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. The present moment is where the peace and contentment resides. The next one is to release labels and judgments. You know, imagine what the world would look like if every single one of us took responsibility for releasing judgment and labels on other people. Let go of the labels and judgments that can cause division and separation. And this is individual. This is example. Each person is responsible for doing that for them. You're not responsible for making sure someone else releases judgment, right? That's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to set a pure, pristine example of what that looks like. So release labels, release judgment. See beyond surface appearances and recognize the inherent worth and interconnectedness of all beings. And to me, this doesn't just include human beings. I think it includes animals. You know, we are a family of big dog lovers, and there's cats involved too. And you know, beings, we're interconnected with each other, with living beings, and that's why I think, honestly, I feel so connected to the plants that are on this planet. Besides the connection I got with my dad, and just the pure love that he had of Mother Nature and watching plants grow and making medicines out of them. It's really an amazing thing when you realize on that level, not just with the human beings, but with all of the animals. And this goes along with giving so much grace and gratitude for the animals that nourish us. You know, I spent 12 years being a vegetarian, and it was not because I want all animals to be treated humanely. But it was because I was curious about the health benefits, and I felt really good. And then I started craving the nutrition that, and I'm very, very picky. And I'm very careful. I local as much as I can. And I really care about how these animals are treated. To me, because if you have a stressed out animal, this being, and you absorb and you eat this animal that's been stressed, you're going to absorb the emotions of that stress. And that's, of course, a whole topic that could kind of maybe get a little bit out of hand depending on where you view, you know, and this where all of these points all come into play, right? As far as letting go of non-judgment, we don't get to judge how other people live. And then practice self-compassion. You know, this is really important. Be gentle and compassionate with yourself. You know, I will tell you, this last couple months, I've beat up myself a lot. Like, what could I do different? What should I have done different if I've only done this, I've only done that? And this beautiful chapter was a reminder of practicing self-compassion. You know, be gentle and compassionate with yourself as you navigate the process of letting go. There is a process in letting go. This whole process, this book is so beautiful. I really hope after I go through this that you pick up this book. I really do. This is a book that I've been extremely grateful for a resource. I think the first time I read it was probably 15 years ago, and this was probably the fifth or sixth time that I've read it. And I've read it in hard copy, and now I love reading things on Audible because I absorb things more when I listen. Because sometimes when I read, and this is what's funny, unless I'm reading like a crazy good novel, which I actually prefer to read a book, you know, sit and read a book that just keeps me totally engaged. When there's dense material that's especially deep learning for personal development, I really love listening. So I would say whatever modality you love to learn, this is a really important book. So understand that it's okay to feel vulnerable or uncertain at times. Okay, so that one is practicing self-compassion. Now there's a couple more. Seek support. So I think it's really good to, you know, reach out to a girlfriend or a friend or your spouse. If your spouse is one of those people that you feel like can support you, or, you know, find groups where you really can get support in letting some of these things go. Seek support from family, friends, or therapists if you're struggling to let go of deeply ingrained attachments and emotions. Sometimes having a supportive presence can make the process easier. And I would agree with that. What I've been really lucky to have is a huge group of siblings and a ton of sisters that have all been on this path as well. And we've all loved these kinds of books. You know, like one of our favorite first personal development books was The Four Agreements. And I still turn to that one every once in a while. It's a simple little book. Don Miguel Ruiz. I read that so many years ago. And I've given copies of that book to so many people. It's just such a beautiful book. So some of these books, when you learn them and you start to discuss them and implement them, this is creating a support system that can kind of keep you on track, right? And then the last one here is to celebrate progress. So celebrate your progress along the journey of letting go. Each small step you take brings you closer to freedom and inner peace. Now then what I did is after I read the book, then this is and I'm going to go through this really quickly because what I did, I thought this was really cool. Where do each of these things resonate on the Hawkins scale of consciousness? So this is where it is. When you practice awareness, it's reason, love, joy, and peace, which is between 4 and 500. And 500 is pure love. When you identify your attachments, this falls under courage, neutrality, and willingness, and it resonates between 200 and 300 on the scale. When you embrace acceptance, you're basically acceptance, forgiveness, and reason, which is 350 to 400 on the scale of consciousness. Using the Sedona method, and I would look this up if you can. This is actually really cool. It resonates reason, love, joy, and peace, 4 to 500. Very high. The Sedona method is very, very, it's love. These are beautiful techniques that have been developed by other humans that are here to benefit all of us. I really love that. When you practice forgiveness, it resonates between 350 and 400. Cultivating gratitude, 500. Love, joy, peace when you practice gratitude. Connect with your higher self is 5 to 600. Again, love, joy, peace, and that's where you start to get into that realm of enlightenment, which is lovely. When you let go in relationships, this is also 4 to 500. Surrender control, 350 to 400. And this is getting to the point of reason. You're becoming reasonable, right? Release labels and judgment. Now, when you do that, you are in 400 to 500 on the scale. Practicing self-compassion is also 4 to 500. When you seek support, it's 350 to 400. Again, reason, acceptance, forgiveness. And then the last one on here, celebrate progress, is 400 to 500. Okay, and I remember last week I actually got a few emails from people that were really cool as far as talking about things that are on the scale of consciousness. And so after I did this, I thought, here's what I actually looked up, and I put this in Chat GPT because it's kind of a fun engine to use, and I've gotten some great little tidbits from it as well. So I said, okay, is there more information or action items in Dr. David Hawkins' work that measures in the field of enlightenment? So I just wanted a quick list of the things that we can do on a regular basis that put us in that realm of enlightenment. Pretty much anything over 500 up to 1,000 is enlightenment. So the first one is transcending ego. We have to transcend this ego. We have this ego that keeps us alive. It keeps us navigating this 3D world. But when we're able to transcend our ego, this can actually put us, let me tell you where that is, 600 to 700. When we transcend our ego keeps us so stuck in so many things. The next one is unconditional love. At the heart of enlightenment is the experience of unconditional love and compassion for all beings. Action items related to this include cultivating love, kindness and compassion in daily life, practicing forgiveness, and seeing an inherent dignity in everyone and everything. Oh, I love that. And that actually resonates between 600 and 700, unconditional love. Now, surrender and trust. That was interesting, right? Let's see, where did this go? Okay, because there's so much here. Surrender and trust actually resonates in a couple of places, actually between 400 and 600. And here's why. Surrendering to higher intelligence and trusting in the flow of life corresponds to levels around 400 to 500, which is reason, love, joy, and peace, and can lead to higher states of consciousness in the range of 600 to 700. So basically, when you have the ability to surrender and trust, this is the perfect pathway. It's like opening this beautiful door to this sunny, beautiful path of enlightenment when you surrender and you trust. God, I love that so much. Okay, presence and awareness. Enlightenment is rooted in the present moment, awareness, and deep presence. Action items include mindfulness, practices, meditation, and bringing awareness to everyday activities. Now, where this measures is between 600 and 700, super high. Transcending dualistic thinking. Okay, so this came up, right? Now, how this described it, which is between 600 and 700, is enlightenment involves transcending dualistic thinking and recognizing the underlying unity of all existence. This is realizing that we are all one. We need to, the dualistic thinking is so easy to be caught in, because many of us were even born into that. We're born into hearing these little things that the adults around us say. And that could be in a religious sense, it could be in a political sense, it could be in a racist, anything that might even be slight. You know, a lot of us are raised in these systems that's dualistic. And when we transcend dualistic thinking, this takes us between 600 and 700. We're automatically in a place of unity and enlightenment. I think that's super important. So action items related to this include letting go of judgments, labels, and divisive beliefs, and seeing beyond appearances to the underlying unity of consciousness. You know, if you think about human beings, living beings, and I talked about this again last week too, it's like, it does not matter what color your skin is, or what religion you are, or what your culture is. And I think it's a beautiful thing when we share cultures, and when we share aspects of beauty from our religions, and some of the cultures that are, like, I've been lucky to travel to many places around the world, and it's one of my favorite things is to learn about these beautiful cultures that are all over the world. And from everything I've ever experienced, people love to share their culture. And I think people also love to share their religion, the religious beliefs that give them peace and joy. I think it's just a normal part of being on this planet. So transcending the dualistic thinking is so beautiful. Service and contribution. This actually resonates again between 6 and 700. Enlightenment. Okay, and what I wrote here was this. Enlightenment often leads to a sense of purpose and a desire to serve others and contribute to the greater good. Think about how you feel when you're in service of others. I feel like, and I don't come at this from an egotistical place, but I do feel that I'm at my happiest and my most enlightened when I am in service. When I do something with my business, with something that and I can make a difference in one person's life, even if it's small. There is so much joy that I feel and a sense of purpose when we serve each other. When you cook a meal for somebody, that is such a beautiful act of service. In our kitchen, my husband is the main cook in our family, and he loves to cook. He's very good at it. We do have family and friends over on a regular basis, but mostly I'm the recipient of all this beautiful cooking. And when in our home, all over and you can see there's a couple behind me say love, love, love. Well, above our stove in our kitchen, there's a big vent that's above the stove. And right above it, there are these huge block letters. They're big, and they're LOVE, and it's right above the stove. And it's kind of a big center of the kitchen. Is the word love is just right there. And to me, this is like everything is made with love. And think about all the things that happen when you're in your kitchen. There's so many memories, and there's sharing food, sharing all the things that families share, their togetherness, and it doesn't have to be family. It can be we've had so many friendship meals over the years that it's a lovely way to walk through this world. And I really believe that when we prepare food for other people, it's a act of love, and of course it's an act of survival, but it is literally, you can put love into the food that you make. This changes the composition of the food, in my opinion. It's like when we say a blessing or a prayer, thanking our Creator for the meal and the hands that prepared it. You're actually changing the structure of the food to nourish your body. You might not have the ability to buy really expensive organic ingredients all the time. And even then, you should still bless it, right? Okay, so the next one is self-realization. Okay, this one is good. This is in the realm of enlightenment, and this actually resonates at 6 to 700. Enlightenment is ultimately the realization of one's true nature as pure awareness of consciousness. Action items related to this include self-inquiry practices such as asking, "Who am I?" and exploring the nature of consciousness through meditation and introspection. I don't really think we get quiet enough. And with all the journaling I do, I know that I don't do enough as far as the reflection and the introspection. I do it enough to really, get me to where I am on a weekly or daily basis. But I really believe that is such a key component of all of this. And then the last one that it came with on this list was living in alignment with the truth. Holy moly, that one is again 5 to 600. So love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So living in alignment with truth and integrity corresponds to love, joy, peace, enlightenment, as individuals embody higher principles and values. So, to me, this was like a really fun exercise. I really think that the world is changing it's changing so fast, and there's even a lot of things that happened this past week that if I was a person who had a channel where I was talking about alternative news, it might be interesting too. But I don't really feel like I'm fully equipped with all of the, all of that stuff. I'm very aware of what's happening. I'm very interested in big interviews that come on that are not put on by the mainstream. I love to stay aware. And then what I like to do is I like to reflect Like, how does this make me feel? How does this change the way I walk through the world? And then my goal is, as I look at these things, especially because I was triggered so much during the last 4 years, during 2020, 2021 especially, and even through parts of 2022, there were some things that I refused to do because I wouldn't do things, like I didn't want to put a mask on. So I didn't fly for 2.5 years. And if people wanted to do that, that was fine with me. But this was something that was very important to me. And so I made the decision to walk through that time very strong in my beliefs. And, to me, it's like, here's things that are happening in the world, and here's the way I choose to walk through it. And I think if we can walk through with some of these action items and realize that many of these things take us on a path of enlightenment, that it's really not that hard the more you practice it, right? That's what I think this whole message this week is. The pathway to enlightenment is easier than you think if we just start to practice it, right? Now, I'm going to end this. We're at 36 minutes, and if you got to the end of this, I wanted to bring this up because I didn't necessarily want to put it into a separate video, but and I always date my videos by not only saying the date at the beginning, but by maybe talking about something that's going on in my business. So many of you know that I published a book last year. It came out the 1st of April. And this was an update of my dad's book on medicinal botany. I doubled the content. It's a book I'm so proud of. And many of you have purchased my book, and I want to tell you, I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's a total validation of all the hard work and the love that went into this. And my son Brian helped me with a lot of the research. And what's cool is my sister Joni actually did all of the illustrations and all of the artwork in it. So this was like a collaboration of people who love natural healing. We loved updating my dad's work and making it bigger. And then what actually happened is a publishing house called Skyhorse picked it up to be published. And it's going to be released for nationwide, international distribution the middle of May of 2024. So in about 3 months. And the cool thing about this is that this is very unprecedented. Publishing houses do not publish self-published books. And I am honored beyond belief. But what is cool is this. Now, and this is something, if you've been thinking about buying my book, or maybe you might want to wait. Here's a reason that you might want to wait. The new book, the book that's coming out in May with Skyhorse, actually has an additional chapter with 7 more herbs in it. Now, these herbs are sacred plants and psychedelics. And I don't include dosing or preparation methods for these because these are plants that can actually help transcend humans. It can help us heal from trauma. There's a lot of sacred meaning behind some of these plants that are in this final chapter. And this is to educate people because I really believe that we are in a time where people are realizing that there are such deep traditions and amazing healing that can happen, especially if you have the right facilitator. I've never been a person who believes in doing things that can alter your mind for recreation. And I've personally never participated in anything like that. And I don't judge it. If that's how they choose to walk through the world, I don't judge it. But that's just never been part of my personal journey. But I believe that these are things that have really been kind of kept from us as modern humans, because what would happen to this planet if everyone were enlightened? I mean, that statement alone, the implications of what the world would look like are mind-blowing, right? Now, many of you know that I have 3 Native American siblings. My mom had 11 natural kids, and my parents adopted 3 Native American kids. And my two girls and a little boy, and they were siblings as well. Well, my brother Bert, he is 60. He just turned 60. So he's just a couple years younger than me. He has really embraced his Native American roots. In fact, he is Eastern Shoshone, and his great-great-grandfather was a very famous chief called Chief Washakie. And so the reason I tell you this is because my brother, Bert, has actually done so much for his biological Native American ancestors and participated in so many of the groups, even, in this modern world. And one of the things that's very sacred is peyote. And peyote is in my book. I've never personally experienced it. I think it's a very sacred plant. And there's so many traditions that are part of these plants that have helped humanity on the path to enlightenment in this human journey. So the reason I tell you that is maybe this is a book that you maybe want to go on and pre-order. You can go to Amazon. If you're not a fan of Amazon, you can go to the Barnes & Noble website. You can actually pre-order Be Your Own Shaman with the new chapter on either one of those platforms. And here's the thing, it actually really helps. The more pre-orders that come in, it helps the book actually get into other outlets as well. Now, that being said, the self-published edition that I have hasn't even been out a year. I still have quite a few copies in my warehouse, and we're doing a really special thing where if you buy a copy of my book, I'll give you a $50 gift card to order anything on our online store. That's it. It's basically paying for the book and the shipping if you live in the U.S. And then there's another option that if you buy 4 books, I'm going to put you in my online course for free. And I really just wanted to come on and just give you more details of this, this thing. And you might want a copy of this book without that psychedelic chapter. And so that might be kind of something to think about. You might want to wait and get that chapter. It's 7 plants, and I'll tell you what they are, just so you know. Ayahuasca, cannabis, kava, kratom, magic mushrooms, tobacco, and peyote. So this is a time to really open your mind. And in fact, there's a really beautiful book that Michael Pollan wrote in 2019 called How to Change Your Mind. And what's cool is Netflix actually put it on a 4-part series, and you can actually watch it. And it talks about 4 sacred plants and psychedelics, and one of them is peyote, and I believe one of them is ayahuasca. I watched it a year or so ago, but I think the thing is to be willing to change our mind and look at things that have maybe gotten a bad rap and a bad spin on them, and really open your mind to the possibilities of the path of enlightenment. I've got some ideas of things that I want to do throughout these next couple of years on my own personal path, my own personal journey. And of course, as we go along and I go along, I'll probably share them all with you because I come on and I can talk for 43 minutes, crazy. Anyway, guys, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to put a list of all the plants that are in my book below this video, because I have a lot of people that have asked me, what are the plants in your book? I don't know if any of them are relevant to me, if I'll be able to find them. I will tell you that yes, most of them, no matter where you live, you can find them, because there's a whole group of them that are spices, like rosemary and thyme and cinnamon and cloves and ginger and garlic and basil. There's a lot of herbs that are in there that you can actually grow in a garden, you can grow in a pot, and you can get almost anywhere you live. So I hope that you have a beautiful day, a beautiful week ahead. Let me know below in the comments if you have any questions, not just about this last little part I shared about the book, but any aha moments that you experienced while watching this video on the things that we can do to promote enlightenment and letting go and surrendering. In fact, I'll put a link to David Hawkins' book, Letting Go. It will be one of your favorite books that you run across. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a beautiful week ahead, and we'll see you next time.